Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial video. Today I'm going to talk about how I created this daytime scene for this kind of like side environment piece I've been working on for quite some time. My name is Roche. I am the lead 3D artist here at Lucid Studios. And this is going to be a quick tutorial where I'm going to show you how you can use Lumen to light up your scenes like this. And then there will be a second video that I'm posting on the same day where I'll be showing how you can make a night scene out of this. So without further ado, let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of the settings that I have over here. So directional lights, the exponential height fog, post-processing, sky and atmosphere, the skylight, and the volumetric cloud. I'm going to get rid of these and we're going to kind of take it, like kind of go through this from scratch so I can show you guys the process. So when we get rid of these, you can just click on the Windows tab, click on Environment Light Mixer. I clicked on it already and I have it actually over here. So when you click on it, it will show up. I like to just drag it over here just because I use it all the time, so might as well. And you're just gonna create each of these assets. And create yourself a lighting folder to throw them in. Then we're gonna search up in the Place Actors panel, we're gonna search Post-Process. Bring that in, and when you bring in your post-process, I just like to center it and then drag that up into lighting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on directional light, and we're going to work our way down through all of these. So we're going to decide where we want to place our light. If you hold in Control and L, you can kind of move your light wherever you need to. I'm pretty sure everyone knows this. But I already have some rotation settings here that I like, so I'm just gonna input this in. Okay, now Epic usually, when you bring in directional light, they usually make it 10, the intensity 10 for some reason, and that's usually way too much. I don't like it, so I always like to bring this down. I'd recommend getting used to also bringing it down for yourselves as well. The light color, so for this scene, we're actually gonna make it a bit of a warmer tone. It's gonna have a lot of warm tones to it. It's gonna reflect off the surfaces as well, and the mist is gonna have this effect as well. So don't go too hard, just a little bit, right? We don't wanna go all the way to red to give that tone, because then we're gonna get something like this. We're also gonna do some stuff in the post processor to give the effect that we want. So just give it just a slight little hue, just something like that is fine. Then we're going to do our indirect lighting intensity and volumetric scattering intensity. I like to keep this at 4. There's no reason why it needs to go more than that, because as you can see, it really affects majority of the scene. Indirect lighting is stuff that the light isn't touching directly, but kind of like it's second bounces. When the rays bounce initially and then they bounce again, it's the second bounces that you see in your scenes. And that's it. That's all we need to do for the directional light. Now we're going to move on to the exponential height fog. And the exponential height fog is what's going to give the scene its pop. It's really going to make a lot of the lighting stand out. So for fog density, you can increase this if you want to. I don't really see a need to. I actually kind of like where it's at. But the fog height fall off I am going to change, just because I'm not super happy with where it's at. So we're going to make it 0.95. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to check this box here called volumetric fog. This is what's going to make you actually see those nice God rays. If you've ever seen God rays in video games, this is what gives those really nice effects. So when I select it, notice how the fog is it's been displayed through the rays of your lighting source as well. It's actually really nice. Next, we're going to move on to post-process, and the scene is just overall too bright for me. Even we can bring down the directional lights intensity as much as we want, but it's still gonna feel a bit too much. So what I like to do for the post-process, I like to bring the overall scene lighting just further down, and it's actually what we're gonna use to create our nighttime scene, but for a daytime this works out great. So first thing you're gonna do is you're actually gonna search up infinite extent, and all this does is it makes your post-process affect your entire scene. Then we're gonna type in exposure, and we're going to change this to manual, and as you can see our scene is blank, and that's just because the value of the scene's overall brightness, let's call it that. Its overall exposure is set to 1, which is basically almost 0. And we're gonna turn this up, and as you see, if we turn it up, our scene comes up as well. And what I found for the scene that I created over here, 13 is a really good number that I'm happy with. Next, we're gonna add in just something a little bit extra that I really like. If we scroll down, you'll eventually find something called lens flare, and you can also just type everything, you can just type in the search bar. So if you select the intensity, you're gonna get this really cool lens flare, kind of just like, I think it's J.J. Abrams that likes to do this for all of his movies. It's just a nice little bit of an effect that can give that you can give to your scene. Then we're gonna select image effects, and I really like vinaigrette settings, and all it does is it just darkens a bit of the edges, like the edge borders for you. This is more just to add a bit of extra depth to your rendering. So you don't have to do this, but I really liked it a lot. Then I moved on to color grading, and color grading is where we're gonna give the whole overall scene its like tint, its feel. Like it's remember how I was talking about it's gonna have like a warm feel to it, and this is where we're gonna make those changes. So if you turn on white balance and turn on your temp, and we're gonna change this to 9,000, you're gonna see how much the scene changes to what I'm looking for. It's very, very subtle, but it's enough that it actually makes a big difference, because I want the scene to give it like a late afternoon sun kind of like bake the stones. The stones are warm, right? And that's kind of the environment feel that I'm going for this scene. Next, we're going to scroll down, and these next few settings are more for your rendering. So when you render something out, you want to obviously get the best look possible, and this is where some of these settings will come into play. For game engines, I wouldn't really recommend this because it really does affect performance. Right now, to this day, there's only one game that's come out that is using Lumen in the gameplay itself, and that is Layers of Fear, I believe, the Layers of Fear remake. And there hasn't really been another game that's brought out Lumen in the engine to really test how this affects performance. So for now, I would say only do this if you're doing it for a portfolio piece and you're creating a daytime scene. But if you're doing a, let's say, like us here at the studio, we're not going to use the settings for our games that we're working on. But it is really nice to have for a portfolio piece. So if you're creating a game, you're looking at this tutorial, just kind of go past this. But if you're using this for a portfolio, or maybe you just want to see how nice it will look after a render, then select these. So you turn on Lumen as your method, don't change this. Then you're gonna select Lumen Scene Lighting Quality, Lumen Scene Detail, and Final Gather, and you're gonna pump all of these up. Then we're gonna move down to Reflections, and kind of the same thing as what I said before, right? This does affect the system. It affects basically all of your reflections in the water, or if you have metallic surfaces, it will affect those as well. So just turn it on, pump it all the way to the highest quality as you can, and same with turning the setting here on. Again, I can't stress this enough. If you use this for your game, it will bog down your system. Next, we're going to scroll down and we're going to look for ambient occlusion. And this just kind of increases the shadow detail for some like hard to see edges, like some of the edges in here. It will increase the shadow detail for some of these areas. The scene's actually looking really good. Next, we're gonna skip sky and atmosphere, just because the settings here for sky and atmosphere I don't really need to touch. They're good, I'm happy with them. They really don't need to be affected at all. However, we are going to change the skylight, and the skylight is essentially everything that so if you kind of look at your materials, right? Your materials are when a lighting source is touching them, they're giving off their own lighting source, if that makes sense. So when you change your skylight settings, you're actually also changing how much light the materials themselves are receiving and throwing out, right? So I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. That's just how I understood it. But for skylight, I like to bring this down to 0.1. The intensity, go to your intensity and bring it down to 0.1. And then you're seeing kind of just changes just ever so slightly. Remember, all the changes that we make, they might seem small, but they all add to the final product. If you go to the beginning of the video and you'll go to the end, you'll see there's a big difference between the two. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to change the volumetric clouds. And the volumetric clouds is what's going to kind of give us that, like, we're going to be able to see the sun a little bit more. It's going to move them up because I don't like how low they are. So I'm actually going to move the camera up here so you can see the changes. We're going to change the layer bloom altitude to 20. So you see how they all moved further up. Layer height, we're going to change to 20 as well. And then trace start max distance, we're going to change to 300. That's going to give this scene, like, it doesn't feel super claustrophobic, because I wanted the scene to feel, I wanted the sky to feel like it's not claustrophobic, but the trees are kind of hugging these ruins. And that's it. That's how I created this daytime scene that I showed you in the beginning. I would recommend people just play around, experiment with different ways of doing this. There's a lot of other things I could do as well. Like, if I really wanted the exponential height fog to be a bit stronger, I could actually just select it and I can drag it up. And then you can see those rays a bit more. Things just kind of look a lot better mood-wise. Actually kind of like that more. And you can see that lens flare have a nice effect. And these are all things that you can do in engine with Lumen. So if you guys are interested in seeing how I created the night scene, hop over to the other video and I'll show you how I did that over there. But if you just wanted this one, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Leave us a like and subscribe, and comment below what you'd like to see more in terms of tutorials. We do have more devlogs coming out soon, but some of these tutorials are more just to help other developers kind of get into the space and understand how Unreal works in general. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.